The anime starts by showing us the depths of a dungeon where a guy named Orhan Dora takes care of some monsters with his sword. He manages to get rid of several monsters in just a few seconds, which makes him think that he hasn't gotten as out of shape as he thought, and it means he can still make it as a swordsman. When a bunch of goblins appear, Orhan decides that it's time to try some support magic as well. He uses strength up on himself, support magic that improves its target's physical abilities or strengthens their equipment. The caster can not only use it to help his party members, he can put it on himself, which allows him to defeat many goblins with ease, with spells to increase both attack and defense. It's something every party needs. Just when Orhan thinks it's over, more goblins appear, so he attacks them without hesitation in a matter of seconds. After all, his magic has a weakness too, which is time, because he can only use it for 3 minutes exactly. When more goblins show up, Orhan uses strength up on himself again, getting rid of as many goblins as he can. Support magic doesn't last forever, and an individual's magic resistance changes the amount of time it lasts. In his case, it lasts 180 seconds, so he has to keep a close eye on the state of the battle and cast at just the right time. Enchanters who use support magic are constantly in a race against time, and normally they don't try to use it while swinging a sword around. However, in his case, it's something he has decided, and it allows him to defeat the goblins in the remaining 3 seconds of his support magic. In another scene, we see what happened before this, when Oliver, the leader of the heroes party, asks him to leave the group. Orhan clearly wasn't expecting this, so he even thinks it must be some kind of joke, since he and Oliver are childhood friends, comrades who've always been together. Oliver admits that, until now, he's given him plenty of chances because he's from the same village, but from now on, he won't be able to keep up. Annalie, another member from the heroes party, asks Oliver to just come out and tell the truth. The other guy, called Derek, agrees, and asks him to tell Orhan that he's just slowing them down. Orhan can't believe how rough they're being right now, but Oliver doesn't back down and tells him that he just isn't strong enough, so he needs to leave the heroes party. Orhan tries to process what's happening because the party that Oliver and he formed 8 years ago achieved S rank in just a few years. They were the first to reach the 94th floor in the Southern Great Dungeon, and people began calling them the heroes party. Orhan admits that maybe he's not strong enough, but he clarifies that that goes for all of them at this rate. Oliver interrupts him, saying that they didn't understand how important it was to have an enchanter who could use support magic. However, in the joint raid last month, they were able to see how incredible the other S-rank party's enchanters were, and that made them understand how weak his support magic is. Orhan reminds them that he's supposed to be a swordsman, and that's why he created his own original magic. Derek instantly silences him, saying that he only converted because Oliver was better with a blade than him. Annalie agrees, and tells him that he's not a very good enchanter either right now, so he's in no position to complain. Orhan reminds them that they needed an enchanter, so he converted because he was the one who had the most aptitude for it. He's invented his own kind of magic to make up for his flaws, and they've survived even on the deepest floors of the dungeon because of that. Oliver cuts him off, informing him that they've already found a replacement enchanter. Orhan can't hide how shocked and hurt he feels at that, so Oliver looks away and apologizes, saying that that's how it's going to be. Annalie doesn't look sorry at all, and she cheerfully says that they're the heroes party, so they have to keep going, something they can't do with him in the team. Orhan can't believe that's how they treat him after all they've been through together. It's clear that there's no place for him in the party anymore, so he simply thanks them for everything and walks out. Annalie just can't get enough, so she mentions all the things he can't do, including magic and sword fighting. She admits that he can do a lot of things, but only at an A rank level, and yet he kept telling them what to do, which was pissing them off. Orhan pauses before leaving the place, and Annalie tells him that people like him are usually called a jack of all trades. Back to the present time, Orhan defeats another goblin after remembering those words, and he's more than decided to be a swordsman and an enchanter. He's adaptable enough to pull off this new style he's developed that combines both after all. That way, nobody will call him a jack of all trades anymore, and someday he'll be an adventurer who can do anything. After defeating the monsters, he registers with the teleportation crystal so he can start from floor 7 next time. Before he can leave, he sees a party of adventurers running away in fear, saying that there were too many orcs for them to face. Orhan tries to stay out of it, but as soon as he hears that they left a girl behind to save themselves, he decides to intervene. He knows that he shouldn't get involved because she just had bad luck joining up with them, but he knows how much it hurts to be abandoned by a party. Orhan approaches the party and scolds them for making excuses instead of going to save that girl. One of the guys gets defensive and tells him that even if he stayed back there, he couldn't save her alone. The guy tries to punch him without thinking, but Orhan simply takes him down and asks the others where they left that girl to die. In the meantime, we see the poor girl is surrounded by dangerous orcs, and she doesn't know what to do. Out of sheer panic, she casts a magic barrier to keep them away from her, but she knows it won't last long, and she definitely can't handle so many. The girl cries out for help when the barrier shatters, and just then, Orhan attacks the orcs with arrow shock, sending them flying away with a strong wind. He stands up for the girl in order to protect her, and with no hesitation he uses his support magic to strengthen his body. After that he uses technical up and manages to defeat the first orc with his sword. The girl simply observes him in awe, wondering if he's a swordsman or an enchanter. Orhun then uses sharpness up, which allows him to easily slice one of the orcs in half. The girl is clearly impressed because she's never seen anyone fight like that before. Orhun recognizes that there are a lot of orcs, and he can see why a low-ranking party would run. However, he knows that he can handle this alone. In a matter of seconds, Orhun manages to take down all the orcs and asks the girl if she's okay. The girl is just trying to process how strong he is, and at this point she's just glad that she's alive, but she can't help the tears that come after that. Once she calms down, they both finally come out of the dungeon, and before he can leave, the girl decides to properly thank him and introduces herself as Sophia Claudel. Her last name certainly sounds familiar to Orhun, and he also recognizes the crest on her cape. Despite this, he decides not to mention it and chooses to also introduce himself. Sophia then shyly asks him if it'd be alright if she treated him to dinner as thanks. Orhun is clearly taken by surprise, and he tries to tell her that he didn't save her because he wanted her gratitude. Even so, Sophia insists, and he has no other choice but to follow her back to the city. When they arrive, he notices that she took him to one of the rabbits' shops, which has the same crest she has on her cape. With that, Orhun finally confirms that Sophia is from the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, one of the biggest guilds in the kingdom of Nohitant. The Night Sky Silver Rabbits are one of the most popular clans in the kingdom, and he confirmed it in the last joint raid last month. As soon as they enter the place, Sophia is surprised to see her sister there, though Orhun is just as surprised. Sophia's sister is clearly happy to see her, but she isn't as thrilled at the sight of Orhun, immediately getting defensive and saying that it's too soon for her to have a boyfriend. Sophia gets way too nervous to explain anything, but she's even more surprised when she finds out that they already know each other. Orhun recognizes her as Selma Claudel, the leader of the S-rank party that's the most powerful in the Silver Rabbits and the continent's most powerful enchanter. She's the one who made enchanters famous and created the idea of different party members having different roles: attackers to take down the enemy, defenders to take the hits, and supporters helping in the rear. Splitting the party into these three roles was her idea, and it changed the way adventurers think about going into the dungeons forever. The hero's party is no exception, and that's why he had to go from being a swordsman to an enchanter. It was also seeing her in the raid last month that caused Oliver and the others to get rid of him. He doesn't know why she's mad at him right now though, but Selma makes it very clear when she asks him if he's going after her 14-year-old sister. Orhun immediately understands what the problem is, and it's clearly a misunderstanding, so he tries to explain that he was about to eat dinner with Sophia, but his intentions are completely pure. Despite his attempt to fix the situation, Selma only gets even angrier, asking him if he thinks Sophia is not good enough for him. Orhun starts getting a little annoyed, but Sophia quickly intervenes and asks her sister not to be rude to the man who saved her life. Selma's demeanor instantly shifts to concern, and she asks her if she went to the dungeon alone. Sophia has no choice but to confess, so Selma reminds her that they're going into the Great Dungeon in 2 days, and she asks her to stay put for a few days. Orhun just then understands that Sophia was dungeon delving without telling her clan, but since it seems she's safe, Selma decides not to give her a hard time about it. Now that she knows that Orhun saved her sister, Selma thanks him and apologizes for being so rude. Leaving that aside, she mentions that she hasn't seen him since the raid, and it's their first time talking like this. Sophia is still kind of surprised that they know each other, so her sister tells her that they're both enchanters, so they were stationed together in the raid last month. Orhun clarifies that she took command and he helped her, but Selma tells him that he actually helped a lot and it was just what she expected. Sophia mentions that she speaks like she's known him for a while, but Selma is surprised that she doesn't know about him. She informs her that he's a member of the hero's party, and that fact makes Sophia immediately freak out. Orhun asks her not to get so flustered, and tells them that he's not a hero anymore because he left his party just the day before. Selma is clearly shocked at that, and she doesn't understand why they'd let somebody like him go. Orhun tells her that they had their reasons, and both of them agreed to it, so he's free at the moment. Selma instantly looks interested, and Orhun wonders if she's going to recruit him to the Silver Rabbits. Before she can speak, he tells her that he doesn't want to be in a clan or party for a while. Selma tells him that he's got the wrong idea, and clarifies that she has the perfect job for him. She wants him to go with their clan on their teaching expedition tomorrow, and she'll make sure he gets paid. Just like the name implies, it's to teach the new recruits, and he can think of it as on-the-job training. A group of A rank and higher will lead the new recruits, and they'll spend 3 days going 50 floors down in the southern Great Dungeon. Orhun is a little surprised when he hears it'll only be 3 days because even the best adventurers would take 6 months to a year, so that's a pretty crazy schedule. Selma admits that it is, but she clarifies that it's not impossible if they take the shortest route and their sponsors are insisting. thing. Orhun mentions that the silver rabbits have it rough in that case, but what they're proposing is crazy enough that they should have been able to turn down their sponsors. If they're doing it anyway, there must be some other reason. Without thinking too hard on it, Orhun comes to a conclusion, saying that if new recruits who wouldn't be able to beat a floor boss on their own can go exploring in the deeper floor, it'll strengthen the clan as a whole. Selma is clearly surprised that he realized just from the few things she said, and that alone lets her know that he's smarter than she thought. In the dungeons, adventurers need to defeat the floor bosses that appear every 10 floors to go any deeper. It's common for new recruits to be injured or killed during these battles, but if a veteran adventurer can take the boss down, then all they have to do is register with the crystal on the next floor to go deeper. That's why they want him to go with them. Orhun mentions that it sounds like a really important mission for the silver rabbits, so he asks her if it's really okay for an outsider like him to be there. Selma holds his hands with no hesitation and tells him that she genuinely respects him. Orhun is taken by surprise once again because he can't believe that Selma respects him as an enchanter. It clearly makes him happy, but he doesn't understand why, since he was banished from the heroes party for being too weak, and because his magic was worse than hers during the raid. He'll definitely regret it if he has to go back to being an enchanter after what just happened to him, so he simply declines her proposal, saying that he has other plans. Sophia quickly intervenes and tells him that she's going too, so it would make her really happy if he went with her. Orhun's resolve falters for a moment when he sees her pleading expression, so he tells her that he'll think about it before leaving. He clarifies that he has converted to being a swordsman, so even though it seems she respects him as an enchanter, if he's going, it will be as a swordsman. Selma is clearly surprised by that information, and she asks him why he did that. Orhun understands her shock, but he already made a decision, and this is something he won't give up. Selma decides to accept it even though she doesn't understand, because deep down, she thinks that if things get bad, he'll go back to his main job of enchanter. She asks him to be at the Silver Rabbit headquarters tomorrow morning if he decides to go, and with that, she ends the conversation. That night, Orhun decides to visit an old man who tells him that it was another busy day at his shop. Orhun is glad to know he's doing well, and the old man reminds him that it's thanks to him advertising the store after he became a top adventurer. Orhun's expression turns sad at that, and he tells him that he's not a member of the heroes party anymore, so he won't be able to advertise him any longer. After all, now that he's not a hero, nobody will listen to a thing he says. Despite this, the old man tells him that he's grateful to him. He always has been, and he always will be, because he's still Orhun, whether he's a hero or not. Orhun is clearly moved, unable to understand that he would thank someone like him. The old man reminds him that he knows what he's done, how hard he's worked, better than anyone, so he knows that from here on out he'll be hearing even more of his gratitude. These words mean that there are people out there who need him, so he must treasure those words every time he hears them. Things are just starting for him, so he just has to do as he thinks best. If he lives for himself or helps others, he'll be on his side, whatever happens. Orhun holds back tears at his words, and all he can do is thank the old man, because now he knows what to do. The next morning, he meets Selma at the Silver Rabbit's headquarters, just like she instructed him the day before. She's clearly glad to see him there, and asks him to follow her inside right away. While they're walking, she mentions that he looks way livelier than he did yesterday, so she can guess he's relieved to be out of the heroes party now. Orhun smiles back at her and admits that it's something like that, though he doesn't give her any details, knowing that there is no need to. Once they're finally inside, Vince Briars, the head of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, welcomes Orhun, saying that he's heard about him. Orhun properly introduces himself and tells him that he's honored to meet the leader of such a famous clan. Vince clarifies that he doesn't need to be so on edge, since he's heard that he left the heroes party, and they don't need to spend their time trying to figure out what the other person's really thinking. Orhun agrees and tells him that he'd like to hear more about this teaching expedition first, so Vince asks Selma to explain. Once they're settled, Selma informs him that they're going from floor 1 to floor 51 of the Great Dungeon in 3 days. Specifically, they'll end on floor 21 on day 1, floor 36 on day 2, and so on. The scene shifts to show a fragment of the past when Selma informs Vince about Orhun leaving the heroes party. Vince mentions that that's a major loss for them, because without him, they won't be nearly as strong. Selma agrees, saying that his support magic took them to a level they weren't otherwise capable of. Orhun's support magic effects are less powerful than average, but his casting speed is incredible, and it's at least 4 times faster than her own. Moreover, he was using multiple original spells, and his ability to analyze a situation, predict the next move, and provide magical support at just the right time makes him have all the skills an enchanter needs. With him gone, the heroes party is going to get a lot weaker, and it's more likely now that the Silver Rabbits return to the top. Vince mentions that he heard about him during their joint raid, but he still finds this all hard to believe. Selma tells him that enchanters often don't receive the credit they deserve, and even though she knows that she's famous, people think too highly of her, and the truly powerful, like Orhun, don't stand out. Back to the present time, Orhun understands that there's essentially 10 parties of rookies and 5 escorts, including himself and Selma. The rookie party's rookies will handle the monsters on a rotation, and if something out of the ordinary occurs, the escorts will deal with it. Selma confirms that, and Orhun decides to ask her why there's only 5 escorts. After all, if this insane schedule is really necessary, they would normally want to reduce the risk by taking multiple A-rank parties to support the rookies. Selma and Vince exchange glances for a moment, and after hesitating a little, she explains that their goal is to take the rookies to floor 51, but a bit of extra stress will help them grow. This is the perfect chance for them to get that experience, or so she thinks, but Orhun knows that that's not the real reason behind this. Pulling this off is incredibly important to them, so there must be some other reason why, but they're not going to tell him, an outsider. That's why Orhun decides not to ask any other questions and finally accepts to help them. Vince thanks him, saying that he'll receive 2 gold pieces in advance and 10 more if the mission is successful. Orhun reluctantly accepts, but he asks him if that's not a bit much because it's a year's worth of living expenses. Selma tells him that they simply value him that highly, and with that she ends the conversation. Orhun is a little surprised that they value him that much, but that clearly makes him happy, so he decides that he'll do the best he can. The next day, the clan prepares for the expedition at the entrance of the Great Dungeon. Selma and Sophia greet Orhun as soon as he arrives, and he notices that Sophia's outfit is different from the last time he saw her. He assumes that it's some kind of uniform for rookies, but he decides to give her a compliment, saying that she looks good in it. This takes Sophia by surprise, and Selma's expression immediately turns terrified when she notices how flustered and happy her little sister looks. Feeling defensive, she tells Orhun that he seems to know how to flatter a lady, so she wants to know if he has a girlfriend or something. Orhun quickly denies it and explains that some members of the heroes party were female, so if he's used to talking to girls, that's probably why. Selma instantly backs down because all of them lived in the same mansion, so what he's saying is probably true. Sophia gets curious and asks him where he lives now, so Orhun tells her that he's staying at an inn for the moment, though he knows that he needs to find a place soon. Selma freaks out once again and questions Sophia for asking something like that, wanting to know if she's planning on paying him a visit. Sophia nervously denies it, clearly embarrassed, and explains that she was simply curious. Once Selma gets it back together, she asks Orhun why he's so far away from the rest of the group. Orhun tells her that he's an outsider, so he thought he might make the rookies nervous. Selma admits that they're all looking tense right now, so she's going to ask for his help to loosen them up. Without wasting any time, she asks him to follow her and asks Sophia to go find her party. Selma introduces Orhun to the other 3 escorts of the expedition and guarantees them that he's strong, knowing that she's vouching for him. The escorts are sure that they can trust him then. Orhun gets a little nervous and asks Selma not to raise expectations for him, but she simply smiles and asks him not to be so humble. That aside, Orhun introduces himself as a frontline attacker, and each one of the escorts also introduce themselves. The one with black hair introduces himself as Anthem, saying that he's a defender. The blonde one tells him that he's Bernard, also a defender, and lastly, the girl tells him that she's Kathy and she's a healer. Orhun notices that leaves Selma and he, an attacker and an enchanter. It's a balanced party, but if he hadn't come, he wonders if they were going to have someone else double as an attacker. That makes him think that something definitely seems wrong about this whole thing, but he still hasn't found out what it is. Selma sees the doubt on his face, and for a moment she remembers the conversation she had with Vince before. He told her that he knew how she felt, losing such a powerful ace, but Orhun is supposed to be an enchanter like her. Given the need for party balance, he told her that he couldn't let him be part of the first group, and she already knew this. Selma can't help but think that they haven't moved a step forward since last year, so they're still trapped, and they can't take back what they've lost. That's why she turned to Orhun, but he volunteered to be a swordsman, and if he can't function as a frontline attacker, things won't go as she expected. Orhun notices her concern for a moment, but Selma quickly goes back to normal and tells everyone that they've got 3 days of hard work ahead of them. She takes Orhun to greet the rookies, and decides to give a speech before the expedition. Selma tells all the rookies that today they begin their descent to the 51st floor of the Great Dungeon. They all look very tense, so she asks them if they're all scared to head to the middle levels of the Great Dungeon so soon. Without letting them reply, she asks them not to worry, saying that she's brought a powerful helper in case something happens. Selma then introduces them to Orhun, saying that he's reached floor 94, where even they have yet to go. The sudden introduction takes Orhun by surprise, and soon all the rookies are whispering about him, clearly impressed. Selma tells them that if they want to be dungeon explorers themselves, then they must know him, because he was a member of the heroes party, so he knows the Great Dungeon better than any of them. All the rookies are instantly amazed by that information, and it makes them more excited than before. Meanwhile, Orhun completely pales because he didn't expect Selma to expose him like that. Despite this, Selma doesn't regret any of her words, because now all the rookies are excited to go into the dungeon. She asks everyone to stay on standby until it's time to head in, and decides to do the final checks with the other escorts. Once he can finally speak, Orhun tells Selma that she was playing it up a little too much during her speech. Selma doesn't think the same, because he really has been to floor 94, and he can't deny that. She explains that part of their job is to make sure they can relax and focus on the dungeon. Orhan has no way to argue against that, but he still doesn't feel good about this because he only wants the title of hero to help the old man's shop, so he hopes this doesn't come around to bite him. Leaving that aside, Selma tells him that she wants him to escort Group 10 because they're their most promising rookies. If they can learn to work as a party, they'll easily be able to make it to the middle floors, so she hopes he can help them with that. Orhan accepts the task, though he doesn't know if she should be entrusting their star rookies to an outsider like him. Once Orhan meets Group 10's members, he notices that Sophia is one of them, and in total, there are only 3 rookies. This clearly is strange, so he even asks if someone is late, but they let him know that this is all of them. A 3-member party is rare because the fewer people in a party, the more dangerous it is, especially for rookies. One of the kids notices his concern and quickly explains that they're only a 3-member party because nobody can keep up with them. Orhan is a little surprised by how confident he is, so he knows that they've got high hopes for this kid, but if he's this young and has that attitude, he's worried for his future. That aside, knowing that all the members are present, Orhan asks them to introduce themselves. The kid quickly jumps to introduce himself first, saying that he's Group 10's leader, Logan Hayward, an enchanter and the man who will someday surpass Selma herself. Orhan confirms once again how confident he is, but he doesn't say anything about it and lets the next member speak. The girl next to Logan introduces herself as Caroline Inglot, saying that she's a defender. Orhan mentions the fact that she's not wearing any armor to be a defender, and asks her if she's going to put on her armor once they're in the dungeon. Caroline gets a little disappointed to know that he's asking the same question as everyone else, and explains that she's a defender who doesn't use armor or a shield. Orhan assumes that she only dodges instead of block, and Caroline confirms it, saying that she doesn't want monsters touching her, but she wants to kill lots of them, so she chose to be a defender to get as close as possible. A dodge-type defender usually dodges using speed instead of using their defense to block attacks, but Orhan warns her that achieving that is hard until she gets combat experience. Logan tells him that everyone in the clan tried to warn her already, but she just ignored them. Caroline tells him that he also doesn't listen to what the teachers say, but Logan tells her that he doesn't have to because he's just that good. Sophia quickly tries to stop their bantering, but Orhan already knows that they're the problem kids. Lastly, even though they already know each other, Sophia also introduces herself, saying that she's a rear attacker, a caster. Orhan smiles, and even if everything she said was normal, he feels much more at ease for some reason. Despite this, he knows that this mission actually seems kind of difficult, especially because Logan and Caroline are still fighting even now. Once it's finally time, their descent in the dungeon begins, and even though they were causing such a ruckus outside, they went totally silent as soon as they stepped into the dungeon. As they walk, Caroline decides to ask him why someone from the heroes party is on this expedition. She wants to know if that means they don't see their clan as rivals, but Orhan simply asks her if she didn't listen to what Selma said, and reminds her that he just used to be a member. Caroline immediately asks him why he left because everyone admires the heroes party, so it's such a waste. Orhan starts getting a little tired because she's not letting it drop, and even though she doesn't seem to mean anything by it, he just can't handle this type. Much to his pain, Caroline pushes even more and continues questioning him about it. Orhan tells her that it's none of her business, so Caroline changes the subject and asks him if he and Sophia know each other. Orhan confirms this, and Caroline mentions that Sophia said somebody amazing would be coming with them. Sophia gets a little nervous, but she admits that he's the amazing guy she was talking about because he saved her life. He was strong, and said that he was part of the heroes party, and her sister said that they wouldn't have to worry at all if he was here. Caroline tells her that she doesn't need to be so nervous in that case, because she's got a hero here with her. Orhan doesn't say anything, despite knowing that he's not a hero, but he notices that Caroline brought this up to get Sophia to calm down. That makes him think that maybe she's more considerate of others than she appears. After a while, some monsters start approaching them as expected, but the trap spells Orhan set work just fine to get rid of them without problem. They're hard for the enemy to detect until they actually got off, so it's a good way to deal with monsters to their rear without slowing them down. They don't have a lot of time, and he doesn't want to waste it on useless battles, so he'll keep setting trap spells as they move on. The group reaches the floor 20 after a while, and Orhan has been keeping an eye on how they fight, so he confirmed that they'll probably be good for the rest of the teaching expedition. He thought that Logan was just a rookie with a big head, but he has real skill as an enchanter. If he can keep it up for longer battles, he could easily function in an A-rank party, so he really is a genius. He loses points for being bad at giving orders, since that's necessary for an enchanter, but he'll get better with more experience for sure. On the other hand, Caroline's speed is as good as he'd expect from someone who wants to be a dodge-type defender, but there are two issues. The first problem is that when she sees a monster, she'll run right at it. Since she's trying to be a defender, she should be trying to get close to the enemy, but watching her scares him. The other problem is that she just uses 2 daggers for weapons, and they're a good fit for her style, but that's maybe not enough destructive power for this party. Lastly, Sophia's not as impressive as the other two, but she's stronger than a rookie already. She was a little passive, but that'll change once she opens up to her party members, and she doesn't have any big big rookie flaws, so we can't wait to see how she grows. Soon enough, the other escorts and group of rookies defeat the floor 20 boss, so they finally head to the 21st floor like they planned. Selma asks them to register the floor on their guild card and they'll be done for the day. Once they head out of the great dungeon, Selma asks Orhun if he enjoyed being an escort. Orhun tells her that just like she said, Group 10 has a lot of potential, but they're not really working together, and he's especially worried about Caroline. Selma laughs nervously and tells him that she has actually improved a lot, but that only makes Orhun question what she used to be like in that case. They finally say goodbye, and the next morning, Orhun is completely distraught when he reads the newspaper and sees Oliver in the front page article. The article talks about the heroes' party and how they have a new enchanter now. In other words, his being banished from the party is now public knowledge. Orhun slams the newspaper on the desk, saying that they have no idea how much this hurts him. He wishes that they had at least waited until the teaching expedition was over, and he can't imagine all the rookies read this paper, but if any of them do, he can see it changing their opinion of him. With resignation, Orhun grabs his coat and heads out of the inn, knowing that there is no sense in thinking about it now, and there's nothing he can do. He decides that he'll head to the meeting point already, but as he's walking in the city, a girl suddenly calls for his name. Orhun immediately stops in his tracks, recognizing that voice all too well, and when he turns around, he sees Luna, a member of the heroes' party. He doesn't move from his spot, still a little shocked, so Luna is the one who decides to approach him, saying that it's been a long time. When Orhun was in the heroes' party, even as the other members were growing colder and colder toward him, Luna always treated him the same as ever, no matter what. When he was banished, she was away on some errand at home, but he knows that if Luna had been there, things would have gone differently. Orhun can't help but smile, realizing that he's still got some attachments to the heroes' party. He asks her if she needs anything, but is surprised when Luna suddenly asks him to come back to their party because they need his strength. Despite his initial surprise, Orhun already knew that she might say that because she always thought highly of him. Orhun tells her that he doesn't think that that's what the rest of the party wants, especially after seeing the article in today's paper. Luna apparently doesn't know what article he's talking about and admits that she is actually asking on her own. Still, she assures him that if he'll come with her, she will do her best to persuade everyone. Orhun gets surprised at that, realizing that Luna is actually serious about bringing him back. However, his expression turns sad because he knows that it's too late now for a lot of reasons. Orhun tells her that after that article got published, he can't possibly go back, and he doesn't want to go back either. Luna sadly apologizes, saying that she hasn't seen today's paper, so she doesn't know what it said. Even so, she takes his hands and reminds him that they promised that they'd clear the great dungeon together. That statement visibly hurts Orhun, who harshly pulls his hand away and reminds her that they made that promise with Oliver, and Oliver was the one who kicked him out, so it's never going to happen now. Luna doesn't know what to say to that, but before she can speak, Orhun apologizes and leaves without another word, leaving her alone. Deep down, Orhun wanted the three of them to remain the way they always were, to fulfill that promise they made as kids, but there's no going back now, and there's no place for him there, because it all ended that day.